Hello everyone, thank you for joining us for the Jamaica Selectboard meeting on Monday, May 13, 2024 at 7 p.m. We are starting at 7:04. This is a regular meeting. First order of business is to call for any late additions. I have a couple and then I'll invite anybody else. Over the weekend, I retained someone who I'm very close to, my husband, to build a locked room in the garage for the new pallets, 2 pallets of our compostable transfer station bags. And so I need to ask you all to ratify that. We should also discuss the next meeting date, which, as Sarah pointed out, would otherwise fall on Memorial Day. So it's unlikely that we're going to want to do that. And we might want to bring it up in order to meet a separate deadline that Mike Tuller will talk to us about. Any other business? Okay, terrific. So with that, I'll move on to the approval of the minutes from the April 22 regular meeting of the Select Board. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Terrific. Any changes to the minutes? With no changes, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Terrific. So Mike is here. He will give us a FEMA update. But Mike, just quickly, I'm going to address an update to the town's application for an additional loan beyond the Vermont Bond Bank. So you'll all recall that we were allocated $422,000 in change from Vermont Bond Bank at 1/4 percentage point, which was very nice. But that's not sufficient. We've obviously consumed more of our available cash for purposes of recovering from both last July and December. So we are reaching out to M&T Bank, who is our municipal bank, for a line of credit. We will apply for up to $850,000. That is primarily to cover the upcoming second payment to the state for what we are required to pay to the state in education tax. That itself will probably consume close to the lion's share of that. We are waiting for a quote on interest, but it'll be in the vicinity of 5%, which is better than the 6.5%, almost 7% that we were quoted last fall. And hopefully between now and when we actually close on the line of credit, it'll be lower. But probably at the next meeting, I'll have finite terms for us to consider. So Mike, I know you've got a general update on FEMA.
Sure. Yeah, just for the past couple of weeks, we've been meeting with FEMA for both the July storm, which we now have a new team that's moved into Vermont, and we also have a new team that's dedicated for the December storm. We just met last week and today on the recovery scoping meeting for the December storm. We have about a dozen damages thus far that we are including into our inventory that are separate and apart from those from July. So we're moving forward. Great team that we've got in both regards, and they seem to be moving projects forward. We've got at least 2 from July that are being obligated, so we're making progress, thankfully. Ball Mountain Brook, I have amended the plan, and I did send it for the select board to take a look at. Basically, removing the debris from the stream channel both at the Depot Street Bridge and up by the fire station. I am finalizing the pre-bid meeting with our state river engineer to meet with those prospective contractors that may be doing the work to make sure that we're kind of doing the same type of work and they're bidding apples to apples in this effort. And lastly, we've got the USDA NRCS projects are moving forward. The engineer is reaching out to those property owners and already putting site plans together for those parcels. And that's what I've got so far.
Okay. I have some questions or discussion points. So I'll just dive in, and obviously anybody else after that, please join in. One thing, Mike, when I was looking at the RFP, which I think, if it's in that form or substantially in that form, after your meeting with the folks in charge of the river, is with respect to the area where there's another load of debris just upstream from the temporary bridge on Route 30, remind me, any activity with respect to that debris would be a state action because that's V-Trans's portfolio. Is that correct, Mike?
Well, if it's the Route 30 bridge you're talking about,
yes.
FEMA did say that we could basically do the removal of debris 200 feet above and I think 200 feet below the bridge. So we're treating it as a FEMA project.
The temporary
The
bridge.
state may have purview. I wouldn't challenge that, but they haven't offered to pull out any of the material thus far. So I'm just trying to put a project together to get that stuff out.
Okay. Andy, do you know which one I mean?
Like Coleman's?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Oh, so that would be on us, Mike. Is that?
Why?
Well, we're treating it as a FEMA project. There is a local share. We still haven't been told exactly. We're being said it's 80%, but I think it's probably closer to 90% for July.
Right.
The December storm would be an 80-20 match right now, unless there's changes, is what I've been told.
Okay.
But we are just trying to get all the material out of there as quickly as we can, knowing the storm patterns are going to be coming pretty soon with the summer months. And we're just trying to get this RFP on the street and get some good contractors together to hopefully get the work and the stream cleaned up by June or July.
Okay, I just, I think about other projects that are adjacent to state-owned assets, and there's a huge amount of material in the riverbed, 200 feet upstream from the temporary bridge. Just before I guess I would like to explore the fact that should probably be the state's responsibility, not ours. Not just in terms of the economics, the financial obligation, whatever the match would be, but we have a lot on our plate, and with respect to, I don't know. I just, as it is the fact that seem to be solely out there hanging, twisting in the wind, with respect to Ball Mountain Brook, upstream from the Route 30 bridge in Jamaica Village, is already something I struggle with. But to have to eat that same piece of, awful pie with respect to the temporary bridge on the border between Rawsonville and Winhall, I don't know. I think we need to push back. So we can discuss it, and
I can reach out to V-Trans, but I think we're going to end up sharing the pie, so to speak, when all's said and done. There may be some responsibilities underneath the right-of-way for V-Trans for the bridges, but I don't know if that is in fact the case. But I'll pose the question and we'll see what we can do.
Well, listen, if it's not removing the debris, if it's making sure that the ultimate design of that bridge is one that can accommodate whatever takes place, if the debris is not removed, I think that's, just as long as, we're not going to suffer either way, and we're not responsible for making sure that we don't suffer either way. Since we have no say in the design of the bridge. If they design it in a way where they're leaving that area of Route 30 vulnerable to damage because they weren't willing to remove the debris, I just, I struggle with that.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll find out.
Okay, terrific. Yeah, please.
So about Ball Mountain Stream, like in front of Water Street, I know I keep asking, but is part of that, when you meet with the river guy and the contractors, are they gonna move that channel over? Is that part of what they're gonna do besides cleaning up the debris? Move it over to the right?
Well, they're removing the debris inside the channel. We we are also removing that debris on the one side of the pier underneath the Depot Street Bridge, which right now is forcing the water against Water Street because of that debris. So we're going to remove that out as well. But it's really, the stream moves around. It will probably maintain its character kind of on the outside of the radius, unfortunately.
So in the definition of debris, is that
being removed? All of it's being removed.
is that stones and rocks? Is that debris, or
Yes,
just
the
wood?
boulders are going to be crushed on Water Street. They're basically going to create a staging area on Water Street,
Right.
close off a short section of that roadway
Yard.
to pull out the material, crush it on the roadway, and then haul it away.
All right, just for a history lesson, the water may move back and forth, but it ran on the right side after Irene until 2 floods ago. 10 years. So anyway, at first it sounded like they were going to move that over. We're getting ready to do it. And then it got put off a year, and now we're not talking about that. But
We tried to clean the channel out before the storm, but it happened before the storm. And we're trying to remove all the debris, but it's going to be a challenge, to be honest with you, with the storm events we're getting.
And you gotta be careful about the other side of the river, those folks.
You mean downriver?
I mean, across,
yeah, but it behaves on that side.
Oh, you mean the Factory Street side?
yeah.
Yeah.
It behaves.
Yeah.
Up
It
there, not
behaves.
so much, but down lower, it doesn't push to 101 for some reason.
So far.
So Mike, on a related note, and we can, maybe what we'll do is we'll just bring up the discussion at the next meeting. So, just walk us through the timing. So if the RFP goes out this week,
It'll go out next week.
oh, it's gonna go out next
Advertise
week.
it properly, but yes.
Okay. So when will it come back? When would you set for it to come back?
June 10th,
Okay.
be awarded.
But when, I thought that's in time for our deadline? What's the deadline for the grant?
For the stream removal?
Yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head, but we're not nearing a deadline. I mean, we're trying to pull the trigger and get this thing going
Right.
in July, so. The deadline, I don't think is a concern. Nobody's broached an issue with the deadline.
Okay, all right, so I'm probably not following something, so I apologize, but I'm painfully focused on our cash flow with Sarah. This project is one which we will go ahead with, provided we get this very significant grant that we're under consideration for, correct? We're not writing this check, this giant check, unless we've got a known source of funding.
This is for the damages from the July storm, and we're pulling the material out based on the damages that we received. There is a hazard mitigation grant that we're pursuing
Right.
in July that's separate and apart, that was looking at both putting in large stones at a later date, probably next year, that would be pulled from a quarry that are about the size of a car.
Okay, so then now we gotta dial way back. What's the rough expectation of the cost of this project, removing the debris?
$250,000 to $400,000.
And where is that coming from? If we don't have a known source of funds for that project, we're not going ahead. We don't have money. So
It has to come somewhere. 80% of it is paid for by the federal government. We will have to pay our local share, whether it's 20% or probably 10% of that amount.
Right, but Mike, I apologize because I thought this RFP was part of the hazard mitigation grant. So my bad, and I apologize. We are not putting out an RFP as a town to spend $250,000 that we don't have in cash. We cannot responsibly do that. We could try again in the fall assuming we have success getting FEMA funds, but we don't have this cash. And the way it works with FEMA, as you know, is we write a check and hopefully we get money back from FEMA. We don't have $250,000 to play with right now for that. And I you know.
I second that.
Okay, we just don't. So,
So what
Yeah.
will we do?
we're gonna live with a dangerous situation until we have the cash for it. I'll contact Laura Sibilia and see if there's something that can be done at the state level, but,
So no RFP,
no, I mean,
right in front of my house.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
okay.
I wanna hear it.
If we want to scope a smaller project that takes care of one piece of the river, although it was my understanding it kind of has to be a holistic project, but I think, I mean, I don't even think we can take, I'm not gonna, it's not we can't vote on this because we don't have the funds. We don't have the funds to approve this RFP. We have to table it. I'll discuss it with Greg. I have to discuss it with Greg.
Why did we think we had it before? Like last meeting?
Personally, I
Meeting
thought this
before.
was an RFP that we needed to obtain to apply for the hazard mitigation grant. That's why I was referring to a deadline. I didn't think this was an RFP that we were gonna go out and write a check for. So that's my bad. When I read the emails, that's what I understood.
That's what I understood.
Did you also? Yeah, so this was not clear, for me. Mike, is there any way to potentially do this as part of the hazard mitigation grant?
Not that I'm aware of, not without contract forces. I mean, you're crushing rocks, you're pulling out major debris from the stream channel. If we don't, we're leaving the town very vulnerable to potentially losing a couple bridges too.
But do you understand what I'm saying? We don't have the
I
cash.
understand, but
Okay.
these are one of 77 damages that we're working on, developing projects to complete them. And this is one that hasn't been completed and it's on our list to do. And I'm trying to develop a plan to help protect the town from a storm event this summer.
Okay, so, but let me ask you something. What are for sure, this project does not fit in to the scope of the hazard mitigation grant? Since this is
Could fall
clearly,
within, yes,
It does.
absolutely.
so why,
But we wouldn't get the funding till next year. Potentially.
I mean, that's probably when this town would have the money to do it anyway. We don't know when the FEMA funds are gonna come in. And we're still digging out from past uncovered consumption of the flood reserves. So we're operating from a deficit as it is, and I think, look, let's talk offline. I'll give you a call tomorrow, but I suspect that this should be, as others of us understood, part of a grant application and not proceeding with something that is gonna cost that kind of money. I mean, I feel like we've been talking about this project for a long time.
For 2 years.
And then again, it's also been a project since last July that I know, Mike, that you have worked very hard on, but we never had the money for this project. It was never on the list of funds that we were gonna spend without approval for a mitigation project from FEMA. And even then, we would have to stage it because of cash flow. So I'm very glad we had this conversation because I would not have wanted to mislead anybody in terms of the RFP. So we'll discuss the timing tomorrow. if somehow, guys, it looks like there's a way to do this sooner, I'll call an emergency meeting and we'll just get on a Zoom and we'll approve it. But for now, it's, any objection to tabling approval of the RFP? No, okay. All right. Mike, anything else you wanted to update on FEMA?
I can't hear you.
Oh, did you have any other update or we're ready to?
No, that's it.
All right, terrific. The next is just a simple item of business. The authorized representatives for the wastewater project going forward will be, we put you and me, right? Or did we put, no. Now I can't even remember. I apologize. I'm so sidetracked from the last one. Did I print it out? I emailed it. I did not. One thing I didn't print out. So, oh, this is from Chrissy. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. Let me reorient myself. So, as everyone knows, we have received grant money for researching a wastewater project for the village. The authorized representatives included Terry and I don't remember who the second one was. Going forward, it will be Sarah, myself, and Brian Zeroff. I'm just letting everybody know that I'm putting that out there. Any objection? None? All right, so I'll make a motion that we approve the amended authorized representatives for the wastewater project.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Any discussion? No? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
I'm gonna abstain for that, one abstention.
Okay, I can send it to you after the meeting, Andy, if you'd like. It was in an email that I sent
No,
at the beginning of the week,
it's okay.
I've been caught up on other stuff.
We have a question.
Oh, yes.
Real quickly, going back, you guys agreed to table it, but you didn't move to table it.
Oh,
No.
good point, thank you. All right, so we're gonna rewind. I moved to table, the, vote to approve an RFP for the, Ball Mountain Brook, debris removal project.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
No,
Okay, and one, okay. Item number 6 is made moot, because, that's gonna I think, happen in 2 weeks, at the next meeting, possibly.
Yeah.
Anne
Right.
was going to,
Oh,
speak
Ann, is
to it.
Ann gonna
Just a
speak to
quick
that?
update, just a quick
Terrific.
update, 'cause, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a change.
Thank you. Ann, please, go ahead.
Hi, yes.
I spoke to Aaron.
So at the last meeting, you gave us permission to work toward that tree planting grant from the Urban and Community Forestry Department. And Erica Bowman and I had a very helpful meeting with Mike Tuller. And we also had in that meeting Adam McCullough, who's the head of that grant program, and who very graciously agreed to join us in that meeting. So I wanted to give you the update from that. So we've determined that we should not move forward with the tree grant right now for 2 reasons. First, we don't want to complicate the FEMA requirements for stream bed amelioration because it's delicate to meet FEMA requirements, and I know Mike's trying to get all of that approved. And then the other reason is just as important, and it sounds like that might be moot at this point if you're not moving forward with that dig out. But the second reason is that we felt that we would get more authentic public input if we didn't rush it. So we would like to hold an in-person meeting in June to see where people feel tree plantings are most needed to control erosion. So the great news is we learned from Adam, the forester, that there is more flexibility on locations than we had thought. So the idea is that we would target the September application round for the tree grant. So very fortunately, there's another round of applications. So it's sort of like if you can't get your taxes in on time, you can file an extension. So instead of applying with a deadline of, this Friday, we're going to take the time to get serious public input on this and shoot for September.
That was great news. Erica shared that with me, so that is wonderful news. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
So, if you went forward with that, when she asked for help with the town, from town staff, is that, who's writing the grant?
She asked permission and.
Ann is writing the grant.
Mike wasn't gonna have to help her with that?
No, he's become an expert in relations with FEMA, so he was helpful.
She's a grant writer, I mean, that's.
No, I know that.
That's what she, yeah.
Mike's got plenty to do, I just didn't know whether, that's what I didn't get to ask last time.
Yeah, no, she's.
Oh, she had, at the last meeting, she said she was writing it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I might
I
need
do.
help from town staff to give me things like, the letter that says that you're a municipality, and I don't know, there are documents that probably need like the latest financials for the town. But my plan was to do the application.
Would the town be responsible for tracking and reporting the grant?
Yes.
It's $50,000 though, so it's. not
Yeah.
nothing.
it's
So it would be
relatively-
run through the town as well?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So it comes out of
Yes.
us, right? And then we get it back? Is that how that works?
I don't think it's a reimbursement situation because there is no, there's no matching requirement.
So
And
we would
the other
get the
thing we
grant and
want-
then we'd spend it?
Is that it takes a really long, they give you a really long window to spend it. Like if we applied in May, we would have until the end of 2026 to spend it. So we could get the grant, through the September round, and I think that means if it were a few months later, it might even go a little bit into 2027. So that would give us plenty of time to work around any, excavators in the stream bed and, figuring out what locations to do.
And just, if you wouldn't mind, just nail down, and not that it would make a difference necessarily, it's a relatively small amount of money, large amount of money. But if it's the structure, which quite a few grants are, where the town spends the money and seeks reimbursement. So just let us know if that's the structure or if we actually get a check. And it sits in an account that Sarah tracks. Okay?
Like the
Yeah, that's
wastewater
great.
grant.
My understanding was that it was a cash up front grant, but I'll double check that for you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, and Sarah pointed out to me that thank you very much, Ann. I do have, in Greg's absence, a little bit of a bridge update, but he's gonna know a bunch more at our next meeting. Everything is moving forward towards a revised plan for the bridge. Greg is hopeful that it will work out to be a positive development for the town. The ACOE did a presentation and site visit last week that he was able to attend to show what the needs are and the plans for accessing the toe of the dam, right? So ultimately this would be, to the town's benefit, obviously, because it would allow upgrades at the dam, both for maintenance and potential emergencies. V-Trans is waiting to get back some design alternatives. We met the fellow who's the designer, who designed the Route 30 bridge in the past, as he mentioned to us at the last meeting. And those alternatives will influence cost and timing and ultimate decision making. So that's just a quick update, really, to say that at the next meeting we should know more. They are working pretty rapidly.
I should mention that in that paperwork, the last stuff that Greg got, the Army Corps has not made public what its findings are concerning the toe of the dam yet. Did you read that on the last page?
Yeah.
But it looks like if you ask, they may tell you a little more about what the problem is. There's a problem. That's what it says, you know? There's a problem. So,
Yeah, so it behooves us to give them, to
well,
work
it
with
made
them
it
to
sound
get
like,
access to
it
the
made it
bricks to the
sound
dam.
like if we asked them or pressed them for it, they tell us what's going on.
I think they have shared more than what was in that memo with Greg.
Well, that's nice. We live right downstream from there, and it'd be nice to know if the thing was gonna calf or break or it's leaking.
Oh,
Yeah,
I think it's more,
the spillway's leaking. It's been leaking.
well,
Underneath it.
which we've known.
Yeah.
So I think it's really more about what is the ultimate project that they're hoping to accomplish there, that they need access, to serve. Yeah,
I get it.
yeah. Okay, I'll move to the next item, which is, again, this is an error of mine. It's not a bid for a new oil tank, it's a bid for the removal of the oil tank. Now, did we receive those bids? We did, right, Sarah? They were supposed to come in today.
From,
For the removal of the oil tank?
who are they supposed to come from, where?
No, they were not.
They weren't
The
supposed to
state
come
is
today?
The state is requiring more for this project.
Oh.
Because the spill took place, the state has to go assess it before we can remove it from the building.
Oh, God.
It's become much
Okay.
bigger than I anticipated, but
Of course.
Right. Of
another
course.
good deed goes punished. But I am pursuing that right now.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mike, for letting us know. All right. Bids for the new transfer station signage. Do you want to just give us a quick?
Sure, they were very different in the amounts and in the plans.
The way they presented.
The one from Cal Signs, he just said that he would estimate at $1,800 to construct with post-work and install. Just in case people don't know, this is the entrance sign to the transfer station. That's it, no further
Detail.
details, so.
Who was that?
That was Cal Signs.
The sign with the
Cal Signs.
fees on it, or is that what you mean?
The one with the days of operation, which are now incorrect, and
Oh.
the date, and the holidays, which
Right.
we have to.
And aren't fees there too?
Sorry?
Aren't
On
there
that big
fees?
board?
No, that's a different sign.
Yeah. Oh,
that's a
the one
different
right
sign.
next to the-
Oh,
right,
just the days and
just
the
actual-
hours.
Yeah, it's
That's
just,
what I thought you
because
meant.
it's falling apart.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the next
look for that.
higher bid
I'm not
was from, well, if I can read it, from Tapestries, also in Manchester. And they were going to refresh and update the sign, design, fabricate, and install a new 24 by 36-inch sign panel, and do the printing, the information in it. Aluminum composite sign panel with 3M, I don't know what that means, control tack applied, vinyl graphics for long-term outdoor durability, panel attached to posts with stainless steel screws, supply, blah, blah, blah. That's $898.75. And then Southern Vermont Sign Works, which we've worked with before, came up with $144. Assuming it's a one-sided sign,
Which it is.
and he would just be, pull the whole thing off the posts, prime the post, and repaint them with the barn red color, and then mount the new sign directly to the post, because he said he thinks it's, it's pressure-treated wood, so it's
Right.
viable and it's savable, whatever. So, so that would be $144. Especially given the previous conversations we've had in this meeting.
Well, we're not talking about $250,000. So I will make a motion that we accept the Southern Vermont lowest bid, but which also meets our requirements. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
The only discussion point for me is just to make sure that we don't change, well, I just will need the correct information for the holidays, because there was some discussion about whether we include Easter, which it does say. You can half see it,
Oh,
but it does say
Easter.
Easter.
Oh, at one time it was, there was Easter?
crossed off because
Well, it's
Yeah, on
covered
Sundays off
by,
except the transfer station. But you'd think
We were
might-
closed on Easter
Yeah.
years ago.
That makes sense.
It-
The transfer station was
includes
closed on Easter?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Why would it be open?
well, not
It's just-
everybody
Well,
celebrates.
yeah, not everybody.
Okay.
Sarah?
It was for the employees.
Easter before it was a
Thanksgiving,
Christian.
well, yes,
Big chocolate.
but Thanksgiving is not a holiday, which we thought
Right.
was not as important because we weren't open on Thursdays, but now we are.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Right.
we-
All right, so, okay.
That's gonna be added, does he know that, or the person?
No, he doesn't have the, we
Right.
have to decide who to hire first,
Right.
so,
Right.
yeah. But that's gotta
Right.
come before we can,
Right.
yeah, that's it.
Any other discussion? No further discussion, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Kate, thank you so much for getting that done. Okay, the next point is a discussion point. We don't necessarily have to approve anything, but I feel the pressure to get this moving along. So in my email, what I mentioned was that with our new ordinance, we need to ratify the penalties that we had previously approved for, the AARPA resolution. I'm really, honestly, I've been thrown today. Thank you, Andy, who was very subtly just letting me know.
I guess it was
It's a resolution.
not subtle enough.
No, because I started and plowed right through. All right, we need to ratify formally and include in our minutes the resolutions that were circulated, whereby we make certain commitments to allocate the ARPA funds to specific projects by a certain deadline, all of which is incorporated in the resolution. And this way we can supply this to the state and ultimately the federal government, just basically as good corporate housekeeping, municipal housekeeping. So I'll make a resolution that we approve the ARPA, Resolution for American Rescue Plan Act allocation as circulated to the board.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions, discussion on that? If not, yes?
I didn't get to read it, so I'll just abstain, but it's
Okay.
fine. I missed it,
There's
It's
very
okay.
little in it if you wanted to look at it.
that's
Yeah.
fine.
It was basically the same resolution we made, but when Greg and I met with the ARPA lady last week or the week before, she said that basically because we allocated the money in the year it wasn't, we needed to write a new resolution, and that's all this
Right.
is.
This is-
It's funds we
Okay.
allocated.
It's already, we've already
We
budgeted.
just need to make a better resolution.
Right, and
Right.
more timely. So if no further discussion, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Okay, now I can go to the traffic ordinance, since I've not skipped any other items. So, as everyone will recall, we drafted an amended ordinance in order to comply with certain statutory requirements and provide for the town mechanisms for enforcement and in a manner where we would not be vulnerable to a challenge. That did pass, and we have some ongoing violations in and around the village, the village itself as well as elsewhere. We need to continue the process required in order to actually avail ourselves of our enforcement rights. So one is historic. We had under the prior ordinance created the no parking area around Hamilton Falls. And the board had previously approved a $200 per incident fine. And there is signage up there that says that. So I'd like to make a motion approving for purposes of our new ordinance, the same penalty level. Can I have a second? Thank you, Len. Any discussion of that?
For everything, or
No,
for out there?
for there. Let's do that first and then we'll have a discussion of the rest.
Who gives them the tickets?
We can talk about that. But in fact, the sheriff is entitled to issue the ticket. And as are we. That's a municipal road, so we can use our mechanisms as well. But the sheriff is aware of that, and the sheriff is, authorized under our contract to issue those tickets. Any other discussion on that? If no other discussion, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Terrific, thank you. So what I highlighted in my email are two other areas. So where we don't have any other designated no parking area that is not otherwise provided by law. What is provided by law is no parking on sidewalks, which isn't an issue in the village and elsewhere from time to time, and no parking in the roadway, in a municipal roadway. With respect to state roads, that is handled by the sheriff or any state officer. But for municipal roads, we have other mechanisms to enforce. Our surrounding towns that don't have police forces, we are not limited to, there are restrictions in the statutes for towns that have a dedicated police force. They're relatively low, but we are not subject to those because we don't have a dedicated police force, a municipal, a town police force. What I raised was, obviously $200 is an informed amount. We've approved that in the past for parking in the roadway, which is, what we approved for the area around Hamilton Falls. But I'd like to get a sense from the board what, I'm willing to go as high as 200. I'm willing to do 100. I feel it needs to be a meaningful amount. Even if enforcement aside, we will be creating signage to let people know what the risk is if you violate it. And we will place that signage in key places around the center, in the village and elsewhere as indicated. If citizens bring to us other problematic areas, we can add signage. But I'd like to get a sense of what you guys are thinking.
And as soon as the sign would go up, it would be enforceable, or would there be a?
Oh, it's a courtesy, really.
Right, it's a courtesy.
Right, yeah.
The sign is a courtesy. It's enforceable the minute we approve
We
it.
need them.
Right.
Yes, Andy is exactly right. But there's a general feeling that it would be proper to put up signage.
I think it'd be a deterrent too.
That certainly, fingers crossed. So is anybody willing to share what they think in
What
terms
about
of?
like warnings? Are those a formal thing, a written, or like a warning?
So.
Or do you just do it and you get a $100 or
So-
$200 ticket right off?
So
How's that work?
That's a good question. So I think what I worked with Sarah to get some basic information about those homes that we know where there are issues and where there have been frequent issues. And I've done a draft of a form letter, which I'll circulate. I tried to get that out to you guys today, and today just kind of ended up being a little hairy, but it's all right. This is part of our ongoing discussion. And it would be a form, Andy, that would be addressed to the homeowner, whether they're resident or not, would explain the observed violations, what the penalty is, and give them, just basically say, you're now on notice, and if there's a violation, you or your tenant is at risk of receiving a ticket.
Okay.
We also have the right to remove vehicles. And I think I mentioned at the time that we were passing the ordinance, that I went over that with Mark, with the sheriff, and, discussed utilizing their resources, to coordinate vehicle removal where you've got a persistent, particularly in the roadway. So that's really the only warning, Andy, that I've considered so far personally. To the extent there's something else feasible, I'm all for that. I'd much rather people simply comply with municipal ordinances than us have to go through the time, effort, and
Well-
quite frankly, aggravation of enforcing.
Isn't it a state, you can't block any road, can you? Isn't it against the law to be parked?
It
in
most certainly
the-
is.
If a state,
You
I mean, I'm not
It's
asking
not state,
that.
it's municipal. It's municipal.
Okay, so we have the sheriffs for X amount of time, a week or whatever it is. Are they gonna get in on this? Are they gonna have some discretion on warnings, issuing tickets, or do they not wanna do it?
It's not typical for towns like Jamaica that don't have a police force. It's not typical for a parking violation to utilize the services of the sheriff. Instead, we can deputize almost anybody to issue tickets. And we would, stop it. Who's
Right,
going? Who's
Wants to
going?
be a
You
deputy.
got
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, it's not.
Right,
political.
exactly. And, basically you order ticket books and the little orange envelopes, and it gets filled out and it's placed in the envelope and in the windshield wiper, and then gets recorded at the town office, and we can sue for those tickets, and they can sue us to fight it. It's really, quite frankly, the more meaningful enforcement mechanism is vehicle removal for persistent problems. But I think tickets are good too. If there's been someone who's been violating and they just simply don't change their behavior based on a warning letter, that's, But we do need to come up with an amount. So I just, again, I'm gonna put everybody on the spot.
200's a lot, I think.
It is, I wonder,
That's what I was
would
thinking.
less
Jesus Christ, a
be
speeding
a
ticket
deterrent?
isn't that much.
Right,
Well, depending.
yeah.
What, I missed the last thing you
You said a
said.
speeding ticket isn't that much.
Usually not if it's a low speed.
Right.
And then
100,
what happens-
200
I haven't gotten a speeding ticket in Vermont. It's less than $200.
It depends how fast you're
Yeah,
going.
and where's that?
In New York, there's-
Like that.
In New
Yeah,
York, you could be going 10 miles over the speed limit, and it's a minimum of
Minimum,
150.
right.
Oh, geez.
So
Yeah,
between
there.
150 and 200 is like nothing.
And
Big
if we,
ticket.
if a ticket were issued for the parking violation and people didn't pay it, then what happens?
Right. So, I don't want to put myself out there as an expert, right? But with respect to obviously residents of the town, that's easy enough. Where there's a challenge is Airbnbs. So that will be a nice segue to our
Yes.
potential discussion, a very early stage discussion of a short-term rental ordinance. It's not so easy. It isn't easy, basically. So this is long story short. But I can, as we progress, I'll give you more details on that.
Who represents us if someone contests any of this, a tow or,
Tarrant Gillies.
okay.
What did you say?
Tarrant Gillies is the name of our law firm.
Town attorney.
Law firm for general municipal law, not for finance. Finance, it's primer. But did you have a question? Sorry.
Just a
Paul.
comment, the difference between parking on the roadway and annoying other drivers, and parking on sidewalks and destroying the sidewalks.
Mm-hmm.
There ought to be a penalty for the destruction of town property, different than just annoying people.
Wow.
I don't know, parking in the roadway to me seems almost worse than parking on the sidewalks,
Somebody
but
hits you, yeah, but I'm thinking of the chronicity of the problem in Jamaica is the destruction to the sidewalks.
They do it, the post office.
Post office, and I can think of another place.
So, I
right.
shouldn't be doing that anyway.
True, I'm just.
Newsflash.
putting
So
out
then
there
it could be the same. They could both be
Yeah.
200. They could both be 100. They could both be 150.
Right, I think it should
I'm
be the
just
same.
putting it out as
Yeah.
a difference between annoying people and destroying town property.
It
Right.
would annoy me if I wasn't
But
paying
I think-
attention and ran into the
I
back
think
of
it's
a parked
right. We
vehicle.
have had persistent, dangerous situations of chronic parking in the roadway, reducing heavily traveled roadways down to less than, even at times less than one lane. And to me, they're both. I mean, they both have to stop. Sorry, Len, you were.
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, like skipping over number 11 and going right to 12.
Right.
In terms of enforcement, you know, it would probably require, first off, getting a list of Airbnbs in the town.
We know it.
Yeah, and sending letters saying
Right.
your guests are going to get, they're not gonna get warnings, they're gonna get tickets.
Right.
We're giving you the warning. It's up to you to tell your tenants.
Mm-hmm.
Tenants get the tickets.
Mhm.
Whereas local get the warning, then they get the ticket. I don't know if that makes
Right.
sense.
Right.
I mean, it's
Yeah, I'd have to-
responsibility of the landlord to.
Right.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
so we're doing the dollar amount on this, right? Is that what
I
we're
want
trying
to get a
do?
sense of what, I'd like to make a formal proposal to the board. And I'd like it to be an amount that is likely to pass, right? So that's why I kind of wanted to take everybody's temperature to see kind
What
of
if we
where.
went in the middle, 150?
150 for both? I'm fine with that. What do you think, Andy? We don't have to approve it today. I can make a formal resolution at the next meeting.
It's a pretty good sting.
It
I
is.
mean, $100 would get my attention. I wouldn't want to give that up.
Yeah, mine too. But also, I mean,
200
warnings,
is too much.
warnings are also deterrents. I've had
Right.
warnings for things before and
Right.
I never did it again. Sorry, Mom.
Count to 3, right?
Sorry, trooper.
What does that say about us who have second marriages?
Can I borrow your pen again?
Gonna write Paul a note on that?
But yeah, right, exactly.
Only a-
Flying over.
So I think what I'm hearing is 150 for both, knowing that we are going to be issuing formal letters of warning.
Okay.
All right, so I'll
I'll
we're
make-
not, oh, do you want to make a vote? We can now, or I can, if you want to sleep on
Okay,
it.
is Sarah gonna send those?
I'm gonna send those, so you're all gonna see it, but we'll discuss it at executive session because there'll be actual names on them.
Right.
So I'll circulate them, we'll approve them in executive session. Okay? But I think if we're comfortable, I'm happy to say, I'd like to make a motion that violations for, it's Article 7, Section 2, which is violations of the rule against parking on sidewalks and violations of relating to parking in the roadway, will incur a penalty of $150 each.
Second.
Great. Any further discussion?
Just that, okay, one of my neighbors, say on Water Street or Depot Street, so I don't put a finger on them, they had a party and there were cars parked all over the sidewalk. So they get a bunch of tickets? If that happens? Say the garden committee meets and there's cars
Right.
parked all over the sidewalk.
Right.
Do we tell them to get off the?
We don't
that's-
have the
That's what the
bandwidth,
can
Andy.
of worms is.
Andy, we don't have the bandwidth for that, right? We're
Well-
not, the constable's not gonna be out there every day
No, I
where there's
know
a
that.
one-time
I know.
event and everybody knows what's going on.
So these are
This is-
tarp for problem.
These are people, there's a
Okay.
tenant.
So it's
for a
gonna be
week.
okay for them to park on the
Yes, I
sidewalk.
mean,
Repeat
yeah,
offenders.
yeah. This is,
People who
At the
say-
post office, it's gonna be
Right.
okay.
right. Here's, like, we've all seen this, we've
Well,
seen
it's not your
this,
fault.
I know that.
we've seen this situation where someone, has a home which is available for short-term rental and there's 4 cars parked and they
road?
only have room for 2.
My road?
Let's not say,
Might be.
because like I said, could be. And you'll see for 3 days in a row, there is 1, 2, or more cars parked on a sidewalk, which is a sidewalk used by children going to school.
So here's the,
My road.
here's the super geeky part of me. If we're gonna put up signs, why don't we put QR codes on the signs so people can just click and they can go right to the legislation, right to the ordinance?
Why do they have to go to the ordinance?
So
We're
they-
gonna say if you park on the sidewalk
Yeah,
or in the roadway, it's a $150 ticket.
Yeah, but I mean, if you wanna know more, just.
We go to include that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I don't wanna be responsible for maintaining that. It's not a statute, it's our ordinance which cites a statute. It's so easy, just go on the Jamaica
Okay.
website. Yeah. Okay, but,
I'll go along with
so,
that.
Paul, you had a point.
Real quickly, you already have a $200 fine for parking up at, on the
Wyndham.
roadway.
Yes,
and you're now
Wyndham Hill.
having 150 on this roadway. Are you gonna make a distinction, or are you gonna?
The ordinance draws a very clear distinction.
Okay.
Section 1 of Article 7 applies exclusively to the area at, on Wyndham Hill, around Hamilton's Falls.
I'm just, as you're
Everything
discussing-
else, Section 2 is generic for municipal roadways, yeah. But so it's, that I'm comfortable with, just because it's pretty, the ordinance was, even before my time, was set up that way.
Yeah.
All right, and then we'll get pricing on signage, because it's gonna cost some money to make these signs. We have just those generic signs, which are, we'll have to spend a little bit more.
We haven't
All
voted.
right.
We haven't voted. That was discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Any further discussion? No. Okay, no further discussion. I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Yeah, you threw me off,
Gotcha.
Paul. All right, super quick, and then we'll go back to the concept of short-term rentals. So I think I'm now forgetting exactly how much this has been discussed, so if I'm droning on, please just stop me. So currently, the software program that supports lister operations, which again, let's ground ourselves, all of the activities of the listers, is the basis upon which we collect taxes. So it is absolutely core to our revenue generation. It's a program called Patriot. It's owned by Catalyst, which is the name that was on here. It is within our firewall, so it is not a hosted solution now. And as anybody in the IT field knows, if it's not a hosted solution and it's not very expensive, most companies are in the phase of phasing that out. They're just not supporting that software. It's already been a challenge for us, and Catalyst has said to us, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. They said to us first it was three more years, then they said 2 more years. So as far as I'm concerned, in 6 months there won't be an upgrade. So what we have, what I'm recommending that we approve is kind of a hybrid model. So it's not in our firewall, but there is a server that they will set up that will sit physically here. So we're paying for that one server. It mitigates the cost of each machine having a direct pipe to the SaaS solution offsite. Instead, each of the units here, each of the computers here will connect to that one server. And then we pay a fee, which will be $2,100 a year for that one server on site instead of $2,000 a machine. So it's a significantly lower cost to us. Included in this upgrade is the conversion of our existing data to the new Patriot, which is AssessPro 5 or AP5, and that is going to be a one-time cost of $3,500. That cost is, I'm sorry, yeah, it is. It's a one-time cost of $3,500, and they'll actually go back 10 years, so they'll convert 10 years of data, even though we don't necessarily need it. This was already budgeted as part of our approved reappraisal that's going to actually take place in 3 years. So this is not, you're not actually approving a new $3,500. We're going to pay it now instead of paying it later. So really, it's about it's approving just shy of $5,000 a year for this modified hosted solution. And so I would like to make a motion that we approve the proposal from Catalyst for the AP5 upgrade.
What about redundancy?
What about a second?
Second, and then.
Okay. Thank you, Andy, for seconding the motion.
I didn't.
So the way this works,
They're doing it through Amazon Web Services, right?
yeah, it's Amazon Web Services, AWS. So every 12 hours,
It's an automatic backup.
right, it pushes out, and they push to us every 24 hours. So if, at the most, we would lose 12 hours of data if something went down. Yeah.
Did you have a question,
Is the
Sam?
3,100 yearly for the conversion?
No, 3,500 is one time.
Okay.
It's annual is under the annual column, which is 4,925, which is the, why is that? Yes, I guess we're paying, so the new software cost is 2,100. That was the one that was 28 and or 27 and he came down to 21.
Okay.
And the 2825 is the server that's on site.
Oh, I missed that
Yes,
And
yes,
that's per year?
per year. Yeah, I mean, it's $5,000 per year to, the UI, the user interface is so much more user friendly. It's just, it's new software. And
And
upgrades are automatically pushed.
I can speak, the listers have struggled with their current software and there's no support, like with Nemrick, we call and they hook,
Right.
they
Right.
connect with us. Karen's calling, no one's there.
No one's
And
there.
It's like she has to have one specific person come in to help her with anything and it's so frustrating for her, I know specifically, because she has no support. She can't learn to use the program because there's no one to teach her.
No, yeah, right.
I'm all
So
for
there will
like
be.
that.
And I should
Okay.
say, thank you, Sarah, for reminding me that I did convey this to all 3 listers and they all support it.
So they will be supported if needed. wouldn't
Yes,
Yeah, so
yes.
they could actually use the program as it is meant to be instead of just getting frustrated with it all the time
Right.
because it's not doing what it needs to.
Okay, any further discussion? Did you, I thought maybe you were, okay, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, terrific. So, the next is just a discussion of the short-term rental ordinance. So, as some of you may have heard, there is rumbling in the state legislature to regulate short-term rentals. Many towns have gotten ahead of that. I did circulate a link to Londonderry's. Thank you, Len, for pointing that out. Really, I think what I would like to do is kind of circulate topics, but just as a preview, one of the main concerns is to have a direct, for the municipality to have a connection to the owner so that there's real-time ability to reach the owner. And if the owner does not reside within a mile of their rental property, that they have a designated 24/7 maintenance, a property maintenance provider who is available to respond to concerns. Is authorized to do so.
So a lot of insurance companies, I do know, if you do not live within a designated area, it's more than a mile, but
Right.
yes, they will require a contract.
Interesting,
Proof of a contract.
right,
Showing that you do have somebody available at all times.
makes sense,
Well, that's insurance companies.
right.
I was looking at Dummerston too, because I know somebody who.
They did it
Airbnb,
first.
And there's a very
Right.
rigorous.
Okay.
Yes.
I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of the state legislation is because of the lack of full-time rentals, the housing shortage. That's not what we're doing this for.
No.
No, though.
No.
Because I can tell you where one of those Airbnbs are. On my street, do I need to tell you how many rentals there are? If that's the case, I'm just saying for the camera. Like, we don't want to regulate Airbnbs and maybe make them become full-time. Okay? I don't.
No.
I don't think that's,
No, in
that
some towns, that's what I'm
Right.
hearing
Right.
is the hook.
So one of the, I think a couple of the big things is number one, parking.
Right, no,
Yeah.
I get that.
Your occupancy is based on your septic.
Right,
I mean, I've been in 3-bedroom homes with 19 beds.
Right.
That's, yeah.
Right.
I'll leave it
Well,
at
that happens.
number of beds is another area,
Bedrooms.
right.
So that's like getting into like zoning, but
I don't think homeowners understand that. Though. I don't think a lot of people that buy
Or they do and they don't
No,
get it.
I think they're ignorant to the fact that their home has a septic system, that they have a well, that, I mean,
That's true, there are.
there's, my
Right,
sister lives in Chester, and there's a house around the corner from her, and
right.
power went out, and there was nothing,
Right,
and nobody knew anything.
right.
So, what are we talking about then?
So,
Besides the maintenance guy, which one of the Airbnbs, I know he has one, but I don't know if he can be there in 10 minutes, but how do we gonna get into that business that every single one of them has a maintenance guy? What?
I think one of the issues is I mean, from people that I've met that own some of them, and I had one, and just from my experience, I was hands-on. But again, a lot of people that buy these properties don't understand what's involved in the mechanics of them. They don't understand, how a well works, how a septic system works, what happens when the electric goes off, and then they rent them to people that know even less.
right,
And
right.
so just a general, I think a general expectation that what, how things work on your property is important. But then also, redundancy. Do they have a generator? Do they have, a power wall? Do they have X, Y, or Z? I can tell you that the people around the corner from my sister had no idea that they couldn't use the bathroom. They had yes.
Oh, God. Well, I think where I was coming from was, the genesis for me was after this most recent July storm, when some of the areas hardest hit were littered with Airbnb properties, and we had no idea. We had no way of knowing whether there was a rental there. Literally, Brian Zeroff and Greg Jolly were riding their bikes up and down West Jamaica Road, Pikes Falls Road, which I wasn't crazy about, then I ended up, those of us who handed out flyers, having to try to find these people. And there was no way of contacting the owner of the property. There was, just no access to that information. So I don't want to go through another storm under that situation. So the first step would be registration. If you are utilizing your house as a short-term rental, here's a registration form. There'd probably be a fee associated with it. And this is the basic information that you have to provide us. And there would be some guidance around, having either you live within a mile or two, whatever it is, or you have this contract and we have access to that information. You have to update it real time. That was more for me, Andy, where I personally was coming from. And then if there are violations of we don't have many ordinances, but the parking ordinance is one example. We would have a way of, reaching back out to the homeowner to say, this has got to stop, or your registration is going to be, withdrawn, and you won't be able to, engage in short-term rentals.
More things for the select board to do.
Would it be, if we did do an ordinance, would it be every Airbnb in town, or would the pre-existing ones be grandfathered in? Because I know I've had numerous calls over the last 4 or 5 years, people saying, oh, you don't have any short-term rental ordinances? Oh, you don't have zoning?
Yeah.
And they're basically, that's why they're buying all our
Right.
houses, because we don't have this. But they're all gonna call me.
Yeah, but
there's no grandfathering.
Into play.
I don't believe in
Well,
grandfathering.
some of the biggest things is when they call and they say, oh, there's no ordinances, there are no this or that or the other thing. There's still occupancy based on bedrooms and septic.
Right, and I still need to know
Right.
how the fuck I can find them when we're having a flood.
Well, in
And
the
people
last
are
6
trapped
months,
and
I
can't
have
get
said
out.
to people, we don't have anything yet, but it could happen soon.
Right.
Because it should,
Every
but
time,
understand that
ordinances
this
can
is
be
what's
passed at
happening.
any time. I hear, you can point, if we end up going ahead with this ordinance, you can give them my number. You can give them my cell phone.
It's a safety concern.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
What did we do before?
Yeah, I think we were there before they were invented.
There were no short-term, when Airbnb is not that old.
No, it's pretty, we didn't have that issue.
In Irene, yeah.
No,
We just had addresses.
We had addresses. Greg Jolly, for example, walked up and
Yeah.
down Pikes Falls looking for places that weren't there anymore. I mean, that's what we were up to. Not just which ones were vacant or damaged, what been washed away.
Right.
Right.
You're exactly right. You are absolutely exactly right.
There are organizations in the state that are gonna push back.
Yeah. Well,
But
what if I don't have a generator at my house?
but you're a private homeowner.
Been down Airbnb it.
Yeah.
Right.
But what if I do?
So
You
what?
gonna tell on me?
Register.
No, I think.
Yeah, but I mean,
No,
but
it's still
maybe
nothing.
every commercial business is subject to some regulation,
Well,
so.
I think
I mean,
More and more regulations.
Well, no, it's not necessarily regulations. I think it's more associated with the safety aspect of. So, all right, so you rent your
Yes,
house.
I get that.
Right, you don't have a generator. The person renting from you understands the ramifications of what is going to happen if the power goes out.
Yeah.
You will not be able to do this. You will not be able to do that. You will not be able to do the other thing. Just so that they know.
And by the way, people called the town office that were in short-term rentals and didn't have power, didn't have water. I mean, that's not appropriate either.
No.
There has to be someone else other than poor Sarah answering those phone calls. It's just not appropriate.
It's not I mean, I don't look at it as regulations. I look at it as common sense safety.
Well, what's wrong with regulations? I mean, regulations are there to create order and allocate responsibility where it belongs. It's not to,
Yeah.
having lived through what Paul and Irene and all of us this last storm, and we had something similar 2 years ago. I mean,
We took the water rescue people in that made New York Times.
Right.
That's right.
That's right.
One
So-
thing to be aware that in the emergency management community, there is a movement that's a little fuzzy for us who went through Irene about identifying people, not just Airbnbs, but people who have specific issues that come power outages, for example, need rescue, handicapped people without generators, with medical equipment. So it's a movement within the whole community of emergency management field to kind of pay attention to this. This is just one facet of it, but you're exactly right. It's something you have some control over, and it clearly, evidence of previous experiences, is needed.
Right.
So we discussed it, and what do we do next?
It's up to me to make a list of the topics that are the subject of neighboring town
Yeah, there's plenty.
ordinances, and VLCT has some suggestions also, depending on the nature of your town. I mean, we're pretty rural, so it's very different in Burlington than it would be in Jamaica. And then we would have a specific discussion of what we're comfortable with, what we're not, and then I'd propose an ordinance based on that. But, yeah, until there's something in an actual ordinance draft in writing, there's no motion is made.
Yeah.
All right? But this is very helpful. Thank you, everyone. I'm gonna skip to my late agenda items. The first is, now we don't have a warrant, Sarah, because Patrick hasn't, tomorrow morning, he's gonna actually install the lock on the locked room. I can show you a picture of it. And he's gonna stain it. Right now it looks like that. The two pallets can fit inside and it can lock. And it's strong enough that Keith can use the top to store stuff up above.
Nice.
Yes. So this is at the back of the garage, if anybody wants to see it. It's at the back of the garage. It has two doors and the doors will lock. And that will allow us to comply with the strongly recommended change in policy around our transportation bags to lock them and to track them in a way which we've not been able to in the past.
Which brings me to the question that Forrest had today, which was, are we going to use up the old bags, or are we going to just, as soon as we get the new ones, start using them? I think they should be a backup, the old ones.
The old, I do too.
I
And we
plan to go back to what I was doing before, and we use them here, they use them at the highway department, I give them to the library, I give them to the fire department. So
These old
basically,
ones?
Yeah, that's what we've been doing with the blue
Yeah.
boxes until we ran out of yellow. But I think there's enough, that's all that's left, so I think pull them. That would be my
Pull 'em.
suggestion.
What about those of us in the community who still have them?
Well, you can still
Oh,
use
you
them.
can use
Some
them.
have
Yeah,
They're
absolutely.
all valid, they
Or are you
don't
gonna throw them
expire.
away?
Yes,
No, they'll be
No.
a backup in case,
Right.
you know,
I like
Yeah.
them.
we need.
you do like them or you
Yeah,
don't?
I do.
If somebody requests them, I'm not gonna deny them, the blue
No.
bags.
No, as long as
So-
they pay.
Just
I
charge
think-
$10.
What
Right.
about, how long is it gonna take? How long do we think those compostable bags are gonna keep us in business? This order?
I think it's about 18 months, we estimated, 18 months, a year and a
Is
half.
there a shelf life on them? No
No.
pun intended?
No,
They'll sit right there?
they will
for
sit right
10
there and
years?
10,
They don't
yeah, more.
compost on themselves?
No.
Somebody asked me that, I never thought of it, I figured whoever designed them
No, I mean,
figured it out.
I think the shelf life is probably less than a plastic bag, but it's certainly,
That's thousands of years.
right,
So that's not
exactly.
that long, a year and a half.
No,
we
the
go through
supply.
them pretty quick.
Right.
We go through.
We go through
sell
them.
a lot of bags.
Right,
And how many did we get? How much was it?
Pound each.
1,200, 12,000,
How much was it though?
12,000?
For the
Dollars?
price? I
Yeah.
don't know.
I can't, I feel like it was 12,000. It turns into much
Okay.
more. Actually, did we agree on a price per bag, Sarah?
No, it was part
No,
of
that
my
was
email.
one of
Did you
your
see the
email.
important at the bottom that I
Oh my
highlighted?
God, I'm so sorry. We need to approve a price because we're gonna have those bags.
Yeah.
Well, we can do that next meeting.
Well,
Not if they're here
Oh,
tomorrow.
They're coming tomorrow.
Yeah, they're
We
coming
want to
People
tomorrow.
are waiting
get
for
them
the
out.
small bags. I've got them
Yeah.
calling every day, about
Yes.
5 or 6
Forest
different
Ministry.
residents that will not buy the bigger ones because they
They
think the
don't
small
need
ones
them.
are just here. They need the small ones.
Yes, I know, well,
Yeah.
older people like me. I don't need that
Some
big
people
one all
don't
the
create a
time.
lot of rubbish. You know, some
No.
people are environmentally awesome
Right.
and they have little piles of
Me,
rubbish.
I make a mess.
Well, you can have-
So
That
Sarah,
yourself
Sarah,
up.
remind us what the current, cost per bag is?
2 and
2
3.
and 3, yes.
2 and 3, and let me just, oh my gosh, do you have handy what the cost per bag is?
I
I feel like it's,
It's under
It was like an
that,
extra
isn't it?
50 cents, right?
oh my God, it's well under that, but it's still,
No,
I
I
mean,
know.
I also did a comparison to other towns. We were still going to, it's higher per bag than it used to be, although we hadn't ordered in a while, so I think the cost even of the plastic bags would have gone up. So was it 30 cents and 50?
30 and 50
It's
cents.
somewhere around there, yeah. Yeah, for our costs.
So
Yeah.
I think we were thinking of upping it by 50 cents a bag.
That makes sense to me.
Yes, yes.
It really does.
So it would be $2.50 and $3.50. So I'll make a motion that we set the new price per bag at $2.50 for which are the little ones?
Green.
Green bags, and $3.50 for the yellow bags.
Assuming the colors are still the same and didn't.
Oh, no, I gave them Pantone.
No, I mean that, like, if they wound up doing the big ones as the green, maybe you should.
No,
just-
they,
Need a
we did
second.
it.
Okay.
We
Need a
did.
second. Somebody
second.
second.
Oh, yeah, could someone second? Okay, thank you, Kate. Any further discussion on the new price?
I'm against raising it. Leave it
We
at,
have to-
leave.
But we.
No, I'm
we-
against it. You guys can do whatever you
Oh,
want.
okay.
I'm
Just
I'm
as long as you
against
understand,
raising
we
the
would-
price.
We wouldn't earn what we need to meet our
We're not going
budget
to
of
anyway.
income. No,
I'm
we,
just against it. I just wanna be the
Okay.
one guy on the board that doesn't raise the price of the garbage
Cost
bags.
us more.
Fine, pay more. I'm against it. I'm against it.
so the town should
There's
earn
four,
less. The town should earn less.
there's 4 other board members who can raise
Okay.
it.
Okay.
It's not gonna
Any
solve
further-
all our problems
anything
at
more?
transfer station.
No further discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
No,
And no. Okay, terrific. Thank you. Thank you, Kate, for driving that discussion, our transfer station liaison. There will be a warrant at the next meeting for the locked room, but I do need to make a motion that you ratify the fact that I used my powers under the procurement policy. We wanted to get a locked room in place. Kind of came up quickly on us that the delivery was coming tomorrow. So I went ahead and I can't vote because it's my husband, so I'm abstaining. But that the materials were about $1,000. I don't yet have what his cost will be, because it's an hourly rate. It'll be comparable to our, other contractors, actually less than Hunter was for the transfer station work. But all those in favor of ratifying that decision pending the warrant? All those in favor of, I'm sorry. I make a motion to, did I not make a motion? I make a motion to ratify the decision of the chair of the select board to hire a workman to build the locked room.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? So we've got 3 folks. Do I have 3 votes?
No, I don't know how much it's gonna cost, and I'm gonna vote no or abstain. I can't do that. I can't vote on not knowing how much it's gonna be.
Well, what could be done about it anyway? He's already done the work.
Right?
Well,
I'm not trying to be difficult, but I
It
have
was-
no idea.
it's a day and a
what-
half of labor. It's a day and a half of labor. Okay, that's fine, that's fine. That's fine. I will raise it as part of the warrant. Okay, the next item of business is reviewing and approving timesheets for the office, listers, highway, and transfer station. Do I have, I will make a motion to approve the timesheets.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? If no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Beyond that, review and pay orders. Oh, yeah. We'll do the pay orders and then we'll do the next meeting. And approving the payment to the Welcome to Jamaica sign. So that was in the warrants, right, this time? Or not? Oh, okay. Okay. Do you wanna wait on that until the next meeting? We can wait on that, right? Or did you wanna write the check for it?
Which is it?
The Welcome to Jamaica
I
sign?
think it's in there.
It's in there,
I think it's in
okay.
there, yeah.
I thought it was, cause I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
seeing it. Okay, I make a motion to approve the pay orders. Second, okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Andy, did you vote?
Yeah,
Okay, unanimous. So for the next meeting, it would otherwise fall on the 27th. So we can move it to the 28th. Any feeling on that?
what's that, Tuesday?
It would be a Tuesday instead of Monday.
It's Memorial Day.
Right, 27th is Memorial Day, so it would be Monday, Memorial Day, so it would be Tuesday, the 28th. Is everybody okay with that? Okay, so we'll hold the last meeting in May on May 28th at 7 p.m. All right? Any other public concerns, Paul? Anybody online?
We adjourn.
All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Great, thank you.